Hi, this is Greg with Lionquestfitness. Today we're going to talk about Memorial Day. Memorial Day 2024. And why do we celebrate Memorial Day? It's because those who have lost their lives in the service of this country, true heroes. Today we worship celebrities, athletes, politicians. We put them on a pedestal. But, we forget all those ordinary Americans who died, fighting for our freedoms. Freedom is not free. Now, when I think about Memorial Day, I often think about growing up in the 60s as a little boy, and there were still many men alive then who were veterans of World War II and Korea. And that's one of the reasons I like the Rock Island Armory 1911s, the GI models. Now, they're very basic and they've got some modern features, but they're a good facsimile of the original GI model 1911s. And I used to watch growing up as a kid. We'd watch all the war movies and programs like Combat, and the 1911 was prominently featured. But it's not just World War II. It's other wars, including more recent wars. But what I want to talk about is a man by the name of Harold Duncan, United States Naval Reserve, gunner's mate, second class, World War II. Now, Harold Duncan was my maternal grandfather's younger brother, and he was married at the time that he went off to fight in World War II. He was married to a woman by the name of Jewel, who my Aunt Jewel was named after. And my grandpa had a M1 carbine that Harold had brought back or sent back before he went overseas to Europe. And he kept that M1 rifle in his closet. And of course, back then, we had respect for the adults, and we also had respect for adult things. And, as children, we would have never have touched a firearm without adult supervision or an adult telling us that we could, pick up that firearm. And things were very different back then, or at least in my family it was. But I remember asking Grandpa about that rifle. And he told me that it had belonged to his brother and that he had been killed on D-Day in Europe during World War II. And it's something that always been there at the back of my mind, because I knew how much it seemed to affect my grandfather when he talked about his younger brother. So as time went on, I always assumed that being a gunner's mate second class, he probably was on one of the Higgins boats, one of those flat bottom boats that they brought in to bring the soldiers into the battle onto the beach. But one day, my youngest daughter, who does a lot of family research, said, Dad, you know that Uncle Harold is listed on a Navy SEAL website? And I'm like, Navy SEALs? They didn't have Navy SEALs in World War II. And she says, go look and see. Well, sure enough, he was there with a picture of him and his unit. He was part of a group called Vandals. Vetter was their commanding officer. They were part of the Naval Combat Demolition Unit, Unit 23. And these were the predecessors of our modern day Navy SEALs. In fact, in their training in Florida, this was the first time the notorious Hell Week was instituted, to try to make sure they were physically and mentally able to do the task needed. They were in a raft. It was a 6-man team, officer, 5 sailors, and their job was to, on Omaha Beach, was to help disable and take apart the barricades and the demolitions and the bombs that were set to prevent boats from landing on the beach. And they had already accumulated over 300 pounds of explosives when a German shell hit their raft, and there wasn't much there. And there is a headstone in France honoring the death of Harold Duncan, among many, many other soldiers killed that day. But I want you to think back and remember that they are people who gave their life so we can have freedom. And if you have a family story of someone who died, not just World War II, but Vietnam, Korea, any of our modern wars, those young men and young women died for us so that we could have freedom. Feel free to share those stories. This is Greg with Lionquest Fitness.